Hello everybody, welcome back to the League of 72. My name is James Alcott and this is a playoff preview for the Championship teams. There's 4 teams in there, obviously. Luton Town, Huddersfield Town, Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest. We will be having a look at both these two huge semi-final ties, kicking off with Luton Town against Huddersfield Town. Before we get into the video, if you love the EFL, this is the channel for you. Move your mouse or your finger and click that subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you've enjoyed this video by the end of it, make sure you hit the like button as well. Right, let's dive into this. And let's kick off with Luton Town, who finished in 6th spot, but finished with 5 points clear of Middlesbrough, which was a little bit surprising going into that final game, it being as tight as it had been, and it's been so hotly contested, the playoff places this year. And it's been a very linear progression for Luton Town so far in this second spell under Nathan Jones, and the first spell as well, to be honest. Really impressed by them. I thought they might do quite well this season, but with the with the wage budget, with the amount of money that had been spent on accumulating this squad, £1.5 million. I think to think that they could get into the playoffs was possibly a little bit of a stretch, but the identity is there and the progression has been there year on year. Miraculously got past relegation, survived last year, and then this year, through gritty performances and hard work, they've gone to another level. And what I love is it's the belief and the desire and the grit. They are the only team that has not lost consecutive matches. So if you think of those games where they need to get a victory or just a need to retain momentum, Luton Town have been able to do that. Those 9 away victories showing again that heart that this team has, and it's taken them all the way to the playoff places. In terms of the tactical style of play, Luton Town play 3-5-2. That's how they play every single time. Nathan Jones doesn't move from that. But what does change is the personnel. Due to injuries, there's been all sorts of players moving around into different positions at different times. The likes of Naismith, the likes of James Bree, who we'll talk about in just a second as one of the key players. Spoiler alert, sorry about that. But it is a 3-5-2, which allows the team to have that security at the back, but also allow the players to bomb forward and show that kind of ambition that has got them to where they are right now. Very gritty on the road as well. And that comes to a little tweak sometimes in midfield where they either play 2 sitting and 1 pressing, or 2 pressing and 1 sitting. That's the only real change that you'll generally see from them. They'll have that defensive shield always, but will it be 1 player or 2 players? What has tweaked it a little bit as well has been the arrival of Robert Snodgrass, who's given that creativity and imagination to the side. Let's talk about 3 key players for Luton Town then. Let's start off with Alan Campbell, who is just a little energizer bunny. He works so hard and kind of, I guess he encapsulates the tenacity of Nathan Jones and Luton Town as a team in himself. His energy is infectious, came from Motherwell in the summer, and he never knows when he's beaten. And even when he does get beaten, he gets on his bike, gets back, and often makes a challenge as well. Just so much energy that makes it very suffocating for the opposition. That's going to be crucial in this game against Huddersfield Town. And you've got the likes of Dwayne Holmes, you've got the likes of Sorba Thomas, Lewis O'Brien, who is, has so much stamina himself. Alan Campbell's going to be crucial in terms of stopping those players at source a lot of the time, not giving them the opportunity, and also not waning when it gets into the last few minutes of the match or the tie after a very long season. 4 goals and 2 assists. He's also great on the ball at times, able to drive forward with the ball and start attacks as well, and isn't afraid to have a shot when the opportunity arrives. Keep an eye out for that, because he might have that little pot shot that could make him a legend for this club. The second key player, James Bree. 1 goal, 6 assists, and great delivery from James Bree, who has had to sort of move about a little bit. He's had to go from playing in that centre-back position in that back 3 to go and playing as a wing-back. 24-year-old who is actually from Yorkshire. He's a West Yorkshireman, just 14 miles from Huddersfield Town in Wakefield, so I'm sure the family will be making their way to the away leg for sure. Has been adept in playing in both positions, and it's one where actually for these games we expect to see him as that right wing back, and the quality that he has with that right foot of his, also the ability to stop the opposition. And again, you've got a Huddersfield Town side who's very good in wide areas. That's going to be crucial in allowing Luton Town to get themselves to Wembley. And last but not least, when it comes to the playoffs, often it's not actually about one individual player. It can be about that leadership of the team, that ability to show steel, to hang in there, to stick together, and to not wobble when it gets a little bit scary. And someone like Cal Naismith is going to be integral in that area of the game and of this tie. Another player who's had to move about, he's played on the left side, and he offers that size but also that ability on the ball, but also can play in central midfield and has done that for the side as well. I would expect him to go and stay on that left-hand side of that back three. But his leadership will be very, very important. And also his calmness on the ball. Very technically gifted, able to drive forward with the ball at times as well, and steps up for the team. You look at that Good Friday game against Nottingham Forest, needed to win that game. They get a penalty. Who steps up? Cal Naismith. And who knows, when it comes to the fine margins of these kind of games, it could be a penalty. And it could be Cal Naismith, who is the hero for Luton. Luton Town will be at home for the first leg, and in the two games that they played against Huddersfield Town, they drew at home and lost to Huddersfield 2-0 just a few weeks ago. And this Huddersfield Town side, I think they actually haven't probably got the credit that they deserve, and that's due to the fact that Luton Town and I think Nottingham Forest at times have probably kind of stolen the limelight with the incredible runs that they've had. But this Huddersfield Town team were tipped to go down by a lot of people, I think myself included, quite possibly. I can't even remember, but certainly right down there. And for Carlos Corberán, also probably one of the favourites to lose his job early on. He has shut us all up, quite frankly, and has done brilliantly in terms of tweaking his identity, the identity of the team, and turning this team through the right recruitment into a team that was struggling in the lower reaches and conceding way too many goals, into a team that has finished third in the Championship. That's down to, as I say, when I talk about recruitment, the likes of Tom Lees, Matty Pearson, Ollie Turton. You've got those defensive leaders coming into this side, which makes you much harder to break down over a very long season that you, of course, play in the Championship. And then those incredible runs. 13 of these 22 Championship wins have come from one goal. And that 17-match unbeaten run from November to March took them from a team that were 8th in the table into a team that was 2nd. You thought that they might fall like other teams have after that? Absolutely not. They've done very, very well and continued to win games and find themselves finishing in 3rd spot. In terms of tactical analysis, when you talk about the formation of Huddersfield, they've actually been very, very flexible. They've used 7 different formations, the most common being the 3-4-3, 14 times. The next best, 3-4-2-1, 10 times, and then 4-3-3, 7 times. And I think that just shows how much credit that someone like Corberán has got to have, really, when it comes to how well they've done this season. Marcelo Bielsa's assistant, of course, at Leeds, he wanted to utilise that man-marking approach, but it really, really wasn't working last season. It conceded 71 goals, which was the most in the division, finished 20th in the league, and something had to change, and it came down to the recruiting new defenders, also that new approach where you had Jonathan Hogg sitting there in front of 3 central defenders and just having a sturdier core, and then utilising the width and the great wide players, the likes of Ollie Taunton, Harry Toffolo, Sorba Thomas, of course, as well, to break at pace down the sides. And then in the midfield, because of that base of someone like Jonathan Hogg, Lewis O'Brien, Dwayne Holmes, John Russell, able to steam forward, and Daniel Ward linking it all together as well. You've got a team that's happy to shoot on sight at times, and you've also got a team that shares the goals. 11 players have scored more than 3 goals this season, which I think speaks volumes, doesn't it? Right, let's talk about the key men for Huddersfield Town then. Starting off with the goal machine recently, Harry Toffolo, 6 goals and 7 assists. No wing back in the country is in better form than Toffolo right now. I mean, so something happened on April Fool's Day where he scored the winner against Hull, and since then he hasn't stopped scoring. He scored 4 more in the remaining 6 games. And with Sorba Thomas touch and go when it comes to his injury, having to miss the regular season games, Harry Toffolo has kind of taken the burden in terms of goal production, be it from setting up goals or scoring them himself, using the 3 centre-backs and having those kind of wing-backs to be able to bomb on at times and make those smart moves into the box. That's shown that he's got the finisher's touch, but also has that ability to sniff out opportunities, be it at the back post, sticking out a leg, sticking out a head, and scoring important goals for the team that's made it very comfortable, actually, for Huddersfield Town to make it into the playoffs this season. I guess the real test will be against these Luton Town defenders in the next couple of days. The thing I love most about Harry Toffolo is the fact that you can see that ability to sort of get on the end of stuff, but also that incredible curler against Coventry recently as well shows he's got that little bit of technical ability as well. And although he wants to get into the box, he's actually quite happy to hug that touchline as well and drive at defenders. On that right-hand side, will it be Ollie Turton? Will it be Sorba Thomas? We'll soon find out. But I think that the desire would obviously be for Sorba Thomas to be fit and firing, because it's been a fairy tale for him on that right-hand side since he came through. You know, released by West Ham, playing for Boreham Wood in non-league. He takes that step up, and 3 goals, 11 assists has been really, really special stuff from Sorba Thomas. And his ability, that quality, could really be the difference when it comes to these playoff games. We know about the width of Huddersfield Town and the quality they've got, actually out wide, but also in midfield as well. But that ability to put in those quality crosses for the likes of Daniel Ward could be super, super important, as would set pieces for a man who's gone from non-league to playing in World Cup qualifiers and quite possibly a Championship playoff semi-final, which could lead to, of course, the Premier League. A lot of talk about his knee, the injury there. Will he be fit for the game? I think that's what Huddersfield Town have been working towards over the last few weeks. They do have other players who can fill in that role, but in terms of that X factor, Sorba Thomas has shown it this season. The final key man, and I'm going to chuck in another name in there as well, Jonathan Hogg. Now, he doesn't score much, he doesn't provide too many assists, but he is the glue that kind of keeps that team together. And in terms of interceptions and tackles, the sort of pivot between himself and the freedom he gives to the likes of Lewis O'Brien, and to be honest, most of the attacking players in this side, is so important. Carlos Corberán said it himself back in February after resting the 33-year-old. He said he's the one player that they need to protect. And when you look at the interceptions so far this season, 42 interceptions, and then someone like Lewis O'Brien, 33 interceptions from him. So that's his role, making those interceptions, whereas you look at the other side of it in terms of tackles, 27 tackles for Jonathan Hogg, because he has to retain that position and make sure that the ball is in front of him. 27 tackles for him. Lewis O'Brien, 59 tackles this season. So the pair of them absolutely crucial in terms of winning the ball back and making it difficult for the opposition. But Jonathan Hogg, so important. He's one of those players that when he's not there, that's when you miss him the most. Prediction time for Luton Town against Huddersfield Town. I'm going to go with Huddersfield Town. I think they've shown quality throughout the season, and I think with Luton Town, what must be remembered as much as it's been a fairy tale story is, first of all, second leg away from home, and then secondly, the fact that they've scored the least in the playoffs and they've conceded the most out of the playoff sides, and I think that will ring true at the end of it. Could be utter nonsense, but I'm going to go with Huddersfield Town. I just think they've been very, very quietly impressive throughout the season and have enough answers to get the job done. Second playoff tie, 4th versus 5th. Sheffield United taking on Nottingham Forest at home in the first leg, and it was back to the future for the Blades in 2021-22. Of course, got relegated, and you had Jokanovic come through the door, and he'd done it before, hadn't he? He'd done it at Watford, he'd done it at Fulham, but he had this sort of passing, possession-based style of play that just didn't click. You get to November and it's just not worked, had it at all, despite Jokanovic's pedigree. They were 17th in the league in November. They had 20 points from 18 games, and something had to change. Jokanovic left, Heckingbottom came back in. Of course, he was a manager under Chris Wilder, and that Chris Wilder style has been redeployed essentially by Heckingbottom, and you've seen the fruits of that labour really. Reverting to type has just been absolutely what Sheffield United needed, what this squad needed to regain confidence by not thinking about it, knowing what you're going to do because you've done it for a few years prior to that, and you saw that the record under Heckingbottom has been exemplary. 15 wins, 7 draws, 5 defeats, 52 points from 27 games. In terms of tactics, as we've alluded to already, it went back to that 3-4-2-1 and utilising the players that had got them where they got to in the first place. You know, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. I think what had been forgotten was that confidence and that ability to win a game of football. In the Premier League, they'd been found out somewhat, but actually, a lot of those games were very hard-fought games, and that's what Sheffield United are very, very good at doing. They've got the personnel that can deal with the rough and tumble of the Championship and a 46-game season. And once they remembered that identity, they were back and they were firing because the quality was always there. The central defence of the three amigos, which we'll talk about in a second, Basham, Egan and Robinson, came back together. That is a really, really strong back line. And then the superb quality of Ollie Norwood, the ability around that of the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White and Billy Sharp up top being what he's always been, a fantastic target man. You've got a team that maybe doesn't set the world alight, but is incredibly competent. Let's get into key players for Sheffield United then. And as we alluded to, the three amigos, Basham, Egan, Robinson. And this is a team that's very, very impressive on set pieces, but also a team that, to dislodge the opposition, and in particular with the injuries that they have going into the playoffs, it's about players that you're not used to galloping forward. And that's what Sheffield United's USP has always been. The ability for Basham to go forward at times, Robinson to go forward at times as well. And actually, when we talk about those set pieces, Egan is the third highest shot taker for Sheffield United this season, 42 shots. That's after Billy Sharp and Morgan Gibbs-White. So you've got the two strikers there, and then it's John Egan who's getting in on the act the most, which shows you that this is a very well-drilled team that can find different ways of winning games. And then going the other way, you've got a team that understands the system so that when they do go forward, they do it at the right times. And that's showcased by the numbers massively. 5 clean sheets in 19 games before Heckingbottom. Once he came through the door, the changes were made. You went to that back three, 15 clean sheets in 27 games. Another key man could be Ollie Norwood. In terms of Ollie Norwood and his ability to fit this system, we've seen that, he's been there and done it. And actually recently in the last couple of games with the loss of Billy Sharp, Sander Berge has been able to go forward more, and you've had that double pivot of Fleck and Norwood, but Norwood would always sit in when Basham likes to gallop forward, drops in and picks up the ball. But most importantly, actually, for these playoffs, could come down to set pieces. Really, really could. And actually, Sheffield United have been running a little bit cold when it comes to that. The set piece XG this season is 15 goals. They've only scored 11. And we saw it with Wycombe. We actually saw it in the preview for the League One. We're looking at Wycombe and thinking, this is a team that should be scoring more goals from set pieces. And when it comes to these games, you've got those kind of players and those centre-backs who are willing to put their head where it hurts. And this could be one of those games where Ollie Norwood hits it to that front post. There's that little flick on, and there could be some set-piece goals for Sheffield United. He'll be really, really important in terms of starting those attacks, but also controlling the game for Sheffield United against a exuberant Nottingham Forest side. Finally, Morgan Gibbs-White is going to be so important. Loves to shoot on sight, direct running, great close control, great passing ability. In terms of shots, we were talking about John Egan earlier. He's had 42 shots. Billy Sharp, 62. Morgan Gibbs-White, 86 shots this season. 11 goals, 9 assists. He has got a real pedigree, and it's one of those where this guy will be playing in the Premier League next season. Will it be with Sheffield United? That could be fantastic for him, actually, because at Wolves, for some reason, they don't seem to have been able to find a home for him just yet, probably because they got a fantastic midfield in the likes of Neves and Moutinho. But Morgan Gibbs-White is a Premier League footballer playing in the Championship right now. He's actually even developed his ability to play in a striking role as well. And without Billy Sharp, you've got a very youthful front two there in Dye and Morgan Gibbs-White. And Morgan Gibbs-White is going to have to step up, and he's going to have to score at some point if this team is going to make their way to Wembley. So in the two fixtures between Nottingham Forest and Sheffield United, it's been 1-1 draws in both games, which is lovely. It means it's nice and tight going into these two games. Let's talk about Nottingham Forest then. And when you talk about their season, you sum it up in 2 words: Steve Cooper. Because Chris Hughton, who has an incredible pedigree as a manager and was expected to do great things with Nottingham Forest, struggled. And it was a single point in 7 games. It was a team that felt crunchy, crusty, lethargic, and boxed in a little bit. And Steve Cooper came in, and after Stephen Reid oversaw the first victory, Steve Cooper came in, and it's just been points aplenty since. 76 points in 38 games. That's better than any other team, including the champions Fulham, which obviously speaks volume. We've got a team right at the bottom going all the way through and very nearly pinching that automatic promotion spot off Bournemouth, unable to do so. But the freedom that Steve Cooper has provided to this young squad has seen them blossom into a team that looks like one of the favourites, to be honest, for the playoffs this year. Let's talk tactics with Nottingham Forest. It's about freedom, it's about energy, and it's very unlike Steve Cooper, who's actually quite careful when it came to Swansea City. He wanted to control games both with and without the ball a lot of the time. But actually, he's gone to this team and seen a lot of goals in the side, the likes of Jed Spence, the likes of Brennan Johnson, Zinkernagel. There's goals in there. Lewis Grabban earlier in the season, that of course is injured. And you saw that in the play as well. 65 goals in 37 games. Not quite as many as Fulham, but more than any other team in the Championship. I think we'll let them off with that one, with the amount of goals that Fulham have scored this season. On 5 occasions, they've scored 4 goals. On 5 occasions, they've scored 3 goals. it's just great movement, energy, ability to drive past players as well. And as I say, I come back to confidence and freedom given to those young players from Steve Cooper. When we're talking about key players for Nottingham Forest, there's only one man we can talk about first, Brennan Johnson. 16 goals, 10 assists, the jewel in the Forest crown this season. A hometown boy from a family of Forest fans. He went to Lincoln last year and did set the division alight. And some people thought that he might even make that step and bounce straight up to the Premier League. Some teams were looking at him and looked at him again in January, but he stayed, and Nottingham Forest fans going into these playoffs will be very, very pleased that he did. The only way I think that you can keep Brennan Johnson is to get yourselves into the Premier League. He's taken on the responsibility since Lewis Grabban has been injured of scoring a lot of goals for the team. As I say, 16 goals, 10 assists this year. Very slight of foot, a great confidence about him, ability to dribble, ability to play on either flank, ability to get into those little pockets of spaces, drive and score goals, and a composure in the box as well. He is in fine form. He is frightening, and he is a huge player to watch. If you're going to watch any player in this game religiously, don't worry about the game too much. Concentrate on Brennan Johnson. Next up, again on that right-hand side, Jed Spence. In one of the strangest transfers of the season, Jed Spence wasn't recalled by Middlesbrough in January, which, look, Isaiah Jones was playing for Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough were playing great stuff at the time. Maybe you don't want to upset the apple cart, but he was doing really, really well for Nottingham Forest. So it was an interesting one in terms of why Jed Spence wasn't recalled by Middlesbrough, but you'd have to ask Chris Wilder and the team there. One thing is for sure is he's had a fantastic season for Nottingham Forest down that right-hand side, been a huge part of the concern that you put on the opposition. When you've got the likes of Jed Spence and the freedom he was given on that right-hand side to go past players, to get himself into the box as well, and then Brennan Johnson as well on that right-hand side at times, that makes it very, very difficult for the opposition, because do you go to Jed Spence or do you go to Brennan Johnson? Or if Brennan Johnson comes into little pockets, then what do you do? Because you know Jed Spence is going to go on that right-hand side as well. He's had a fantastic season for them, absolutely brilliant, bombing up and down that right-hand side, or even cutting inside as well. If you see the great chance that he created for Sam Surridge against Bournemouth recently, drives into the middle of the pitch and then plays that beautiful ball into Sam Surridge. He's got the lot, this guy, and that right side for Nottingham Forest is pretty scary. And last up, I'm going to give you two actually, because it's that midfield axis for Nottingham Forest, the energy and poise that this team has. It's kind of done in fast forward. It's a team that plays in fast forward because of the energy that they've got. It feels like a very modern side right now. And that engine room of Ryan Yates and James Garner is very, very important. And be it in this semi-final, and if they make their way through, and I could see them going up against a Luton Town side that's got a lot of energy, or a Huddersfield Town side, the likes of Lewis O'Brien in there as well. These midfield two are going to be so, so important in terms of winning that midfield battle. Yates, 8 goals. Garner, 4 goals and 8 assists. Garner, he's that little Rolls Royce. He's got that size about him as well. Can do a bit of everything. Great free kick delivery as well. But Ryan Yates, in terms of a 24-year-old lad, is a Nottingham Forest legend already, I would imagine. He's just all action, just absolutely all action all the time, going and winning the ball, getting out and around about the pitch. And it's one of those things that maybe not in the first 10 minutes, maybe not up till half time, but sooner or later that starts to wear on the opposition. You've then got all these runners as well, and that's what makes Nottingham Forest such an explosive team this season. So this second semi-final, and of course, let me know in the comments down below who you are picking for these two semi-finals, but I've got to go for Nottingham Forest due to a couple of things. I wonder if on the counter-attack, Sheffield United might be a little bit more conservative in what they do, because they'll be concerned about Nottingham Forest. I think in midfield, you've got a very fine balance there. Sander Berge, of course, we haven't spoken about, could be crucial for this game as well. But I think the experience of someone like Steve Cook at the centre-back, you've got the experience of Steve Cooper as a manager who's been there and done it. I think it might have just a little bit too much, although it's going to be super, super tight. The second leg at the City Ground is going to be outrageous. I just think this Nottingham Forest side has got too much quality all around the pitch to not score 3, maybe even 4 goals in this tie. And so on the other side of it, can Sheffield United get the goals down the other end? I think without Billy Sharp, that could prove too much of a difficulty in terms of getting those goals. But who knows? It's going to be a very, very tight game for a Sheffield United side who are very exciting when it comes to set pieces as well. And of course, the likes of Morgan Gibbs White. What do I know? I'm going to go Forest and Huddersfield Town for the final at Wembley. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this one. Hit the subscribe button if you really enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time.